Hello friends, welcome to my channel Essentials of Management. We are continuing with Industrial Safety Management series. Today we are going to look into Discourse 11, which is part 2 of 5 parts of the topic 5 steps in implementation of safety management system. Here we are going to look into the first step, that is policy. Now friends, we have seen this slide in the last discourse. You have completely tried to understand. It is just given here to highlight the first step, that is set your policy. So in this discourse, we will discuss about the policy. Now what is the definition of policy? A policy is a principle or rule to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes. Now this definition is bit difficult to understand. So with the help of examples, we will try to understand what is the meaning of policy. A policy is a statement of intent. In every policy, there is some intent given in it very clearly. And this policy is implemented to achieve that intent with the help of different procedures and protocols. Now it is the smallest document with largest intent. Again we will try to understand this with the help of example. See, I was working with one of a big pharmaceutical company some years back. So there we had a policy, EHS policy. It was a one-page document. There were around 10 to 12 statements. But there was an annexure connected to it or attached to it. In that annexure, it was given completely statement by statement that whatever is stated in that statement, how, in what way the company or the management is going to achieve it. And that annexure was of 40 pages. So from this example, you can understand the meaning of this statement, that it is the smallest document with the largest intent. Then what policies do? They provide principles that guide actions, set roles and responsibilities, reflect values and beliefs, state an intention to do something. We have said that there is always an intent, and it outlines rules or give help or a guideline to create the rules. Again, we will try to understand this with the help of the example. Now, in some of the companies, there is a guideline in a finance department that an accountant can sign check up to 10,000 rupees. Accounts manager can sign checks up to 1 lakh rupees. Finance manager will sign the check up to 10 lakh rupees. And checks above 10 lakhs will be signed either by CEO or the managing director. So what the policy does? The policy has set the roles and the responsibilities of those particular person, and it has given a guideline that who will sign what amount of checks. Secondly, take an example of HR department. So there are two candidates having equal competence, but the length of the service is different. One person is having a longer service than the other. Now there is a question of promotion. So who is to be promoted? So HR manager has a policy guideline that out of the two, who is senior is to be promoted. So HR manager is at rest because he has given he has got the guideline from the HR policy that this person is to be promoted, right? Now, thirdly, as a business policy, some companies have the policy that unless otherwise they receive 100% payment, they don't give the dispatches. Now, this is the policy of that company, whether it is good or bad, whether it is wrong or correct. But they have decided that they are doing the business on cash. They are not doing the business on credit, right? Now, many a times we say that the values and ethos of the companies like Tata and Infosys are very great. We always say that their policies are very good, very clear, transparent, and they are appropriate. So why we say that the values of the company, Tata companies or Infosys reflect in their policies. So friends, I think you might have understood the meaning of the policy and what policies do with these examples. Now we'll come to occupational health and safety policy. Now this policy is intended to help prevent accidents and injuries. So we will try to understand what the policies generally deal with, the occupational health and safety policy deal with. It deals with that they will prevent accidents and injuries. They will try to increase this safety awareness in their organization. They will try to meet the requirements of the environmental, occupational health and safety laws and regulations. So they will see that they are compliant with whatever the law of the land is there. Different laws are there pertaining to Factory Act or the environmental acts and so on. They will reduce the institutional liability by working on improving the safety, because sometimes it becomes the liability. If you are not compliant, it becomes a liability. If you are not observing and implementing safety in your organization, there may be accidents. So there will be a liability on the organization. They will manage risk. So whatever the risks are there in their operations, they will manage those risks, and they will create an organization, and by creating the organization, they will establish the responsibilities of the people towards safety, and they will be given the appropriate authorities. Okay. So a health and safety policy is a written statement by an employer. So very important, it is a written statement in black and white. Who creates that statement? The employer or the occupier or the site manager is responsible for creating the policy. Now, in policy, it states the commitment of the company or company's management for the protection of the health and safety of their employees essentially, and that of the public at large. So always every organization or the company has got surroundings. So there may be some residential surrounding the factories. So it is not the case that they are committed or they are responsible for the safety and health of their workers only. They are responsible for the safety and health of the people at large who are residing outside the factory premise. Because if something goes wrong at the factory and the impact is felt outside, then the people will be harmed. So it is the responsibility of the organization, and which is committed in the policy, that they will look into the safety of the people who are residing surrounding the factory. So it is an endorsement or commitment by management to its employees regarding their health and safety. Now what are the policy requirements? We will see first according to the OSHA's 81001 or ISO 45001, and thereafter we will look the requirement as per the legal aspect. So OSHA standard has given requirements about this policy, OH&S policy, in section 4.2 in a precise manner as follows: that Top management shall define and authorize the organizational OH and S policy. So, as in last slide we discussed that it will be defined, written and authorized by the top management. Then it should be appropriate to the nature and scale of the organization and the OH and S risk which are evolving out of the operations. So, if the company is very small, if the operations are very small, so there may not be a need to create a policy. It may not be mandatory even to create the policy. But the large company is having large operations spread over acres together and having different hazardous operations, having different hazardous machines and processes. So they have to, create a policy which will take care of all these occupational health and safety risks. They have to see that their policy covers each and every aspect which is related to occupational health and safety within the company's premise. It includes a commitment to prevention of injury. Very essentially, that injury has to be prevented, the accidents have to be prevented. So, it's a commitment to prevention of injury and ill health, and there is a commitment to continual improvement in OH and S management and OH and S performance. So, it's a commitment given by the management that not only they are responsible for the safety and health of the workers, but they will seek continuous improvement in their management system and overall management they are creating for safety, and they will see that there is continuous improvement in the OH and S performance. That means the accident will be less, the incidental rate will go down, the severity rate will go down, the occupational health incidences will go down, like that. Now, it includes a commitment to at least comply with the applicable legal requirements and with other requirements to which the organization subscribes that relates to its OH and S hazards. So, again a legal compliance. So, they commit that whatever the applicable legal requirements are there, that means try to understand that there is a Factory Act, there are n number of sections in the Factory Act. Now, every industry do not attract all the sections. For a particular industry, some sections will be applicable. Say for chemical industry, some sections will be applicable. For textile industry, some sections will be applicable. For engineering industry, some sections will be applicable. And the organization is responsible to comply with those sections, not all the sections in the law. Same is the case with the environmental laws. So, whatever the environmental risks are there, which are, coming under those environmental laws, then you have to comply with that, right? Now, it provides the framework for setting and reviewing occupational health and safety objectives. So, why the policy is created? Policy is created basically to achieve the objectives. So, again the OH and S policy is there to achieve the OH and S objectives. It is documented, that means it is in black and white. It is implemented by spirit, not only in words, but it is implemented in spirit and it is maintained at the site. It is communicated to all persons working under the control of the organizations with the intent that they are made aware of their individual OH and S obligations. So, whosoever is working in the organization, from worker to manager, they must be conversant with this policy. They must try to understand not only in words but in spirit about the implementation of this policy. Now, it should be made available to interested parties. So, whosoever is coming to the factory as visitors, they must be provided with the document the policy copy. Then it must be reviewed periodically to ensure that it remains relevant and appropriate to the organization. So it should be reviewed, and if need be, it should be appropriate changes must be done. The policy on safety health is a statutory requirement under sections 7A, 3, 41B2 and 112 of the Factories Act 1948. So all these sections are applicable, and if your factory falls under this section, then you are supposed to create the policy. The health and safety policy should be signed by the occupier and presented to the inspector on demand. So it should be present at the site, and whenever inspector comes and he demands to look into the policy, he should be provided with the copy. Then it should be displayed at the conspicuous places. So whatever the important places are there, like factory gate, the factory building gate, or the workshops, and wherever you get a proper place, so passerby can have a look at the policy, then a board must be put on which the policy is displayed. Now it should be made available in vernacular language. So in Maharashtra, the vernacular language is Marathi. In Karnataka, it is Kannada. So if your factory is in Maharashtra, it should be made available in Marathi. If it is in Karnataka, it should be made available in Kannada. Again, as we said, that it is to be reviewed and updated. When it is required to be reviewed and updated, that when there is a change in the manufacturing process. If there is a big change in the manufacturing process, so some new risks are coming, which were unknown previously and which were not given prominence in the policy. When new substances or processes is added, so if you are going to process some hazardous substances which were not being used previously, and again they are creating some occupational health problems or hazards, then you have to look into that whether your policy covers that. If there are major changes in your factory has taken place, and if there is a need to review the policy with that context, so you have to review it and change it accordingly and make it appropriate for the time. So viewers are advised to refer the Factories Act 1948 and Maharashtra Factory Rule 1963, because we are not able to discuss all these sections and the rules here. So you are requested to visit both these books. So what are the requirements? This policy and OH&S implementation procedure must be cascaded to every employee. We have discussed that. Everybody must know in words and spirit, not only the regular employees but the new employees which are joining. Before joining and resuming their duties, they must be aware about this policy and what are their responsibilities. Okay, so there must be an open discussion among the workers and the management. It should be discussed and explained, and workers should be explained what is their involvement in the implementation of the policy. And any changes, amendments to the policy must be brought to the attention of all the staff and the respective government or statutory authorities. What are the checkpoints? Have all of your staff received a copy of the site EHS policy or not? Check that everyone has received the policy. See that your staff is trained to understand the policy and its procedure of implementation. Everybody must be aware of it. What is the policy, what is the implementation, how it is to be done, and what is the role of that particular person in that implementation. You have to keep the training records. You have to see that have you helped your team understand the arrangements in place for EHS and their responsibilities? So you must see that everyone know what different arrangements are made as far as their EHS or occupational health and safety responsibilities are. So friends, in this discourse we discussed at length about the policy. We understood what the policy means. We tried to understood what OH and S policy means, then how it is created, how the commitment of the management is reflected in the policy, what are the OSHA's requirement for the policy, what are the statutory and mandatory requirements are there for the policy, and so on. So resume your viewing and you can switch over to discourse 12, in which we will discuss step 2 about building safety organization. Friends, please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.